I have made no secret of the fact I have a love-hate relationship with these. These were the first ever brush nib acrylic markers that I purchased, and I love acrylic markers. However, these ones frustrated me so much because they were dry, they were inconsistent, and it put me on a search to find the perfect marker. I found markers that I prefer for me personally, but it still makes me sad. I spent a lot of money on these. So I got to thinking, is it possible to revive the dry markers in this set and at least get to use them so that I get my money's worth out of them? Let's have a go and see if we can fix these. The first thing I needed to do was to find the pens that had been causing me issues. So I swatched them all out to find the dry ones, and would you believe it, most of them actually played nice. So maybe the secret to these pens is to not use them for a long time and then they have to prove their worth. Anyway, we did have 2 dry ones that we can try out this experiment on. So we're going to give them a little spa. So we have some nice warm water, and I'm just pulling the nib out with a pair of tweezers and dropping it into the water, and then just giving it a little massage. So I just kept rolling the nib in my fingers to remove any excess paint from the nib, and also just tried to soften the nib a little bit. And I don't know, kept working it until it seemed about right. I've never done this before, so this seemed okay at this point. So then I popped the nib back into the pen, and then I popped the pen in a pot and left it there for about 24 hours. The reason I did that is these 2 pens caused me problems when I first got them, and that is what Artex recommended, is popping them face down for 24 hours. And lo and behold, look how juicy these guys look. At this point I was very excited that I had actually fixed these pens. So let's put them to the test a bit further and see how they perform. So I decided to just do a quick journal page. We've got a nice green circle there, but almost by the end it was starting to play up, and then it got paler and paler and harder to use. So my excitement was very short-lived. Now, the nature of these pens means I can't see how much paint is in the barrel, so I don't know whether that one just lacks paint. The blue one did work really well. This stayed juicy for the rest of the project, so that was good. Because I've only done 2 of the pens, I don't think I can give a full overview as to whether that green is a one-off or whether that would happen to all of them. What I would say is if you have dried out pens, it's worth giving it a try. You might get a little bit more life out of them. So you can see how juicy the pens that are okay are, and the difference between those and the ones that I've just cleaned. I think the cleaned ones have done okay, but they're still not quite flowing as well as they should. So I still wouldn't kind of switch to these markers as being a favourite anytime soon, but it's worth reviving them just to kind of extend the lifetime a little bit. So the sentiment for this journal is, for every mistake you make, there is a lesson learned. And I think that's perfect, because I have learned that I don't like these markers, but I've also learned that now if I'm to buy markers, I make sure that they have a window and I make sure that they have a ball bearing, so I have more of an idea of what's actually going on with them. But at least I can try and get a little bit more life out of these particular markers. So yes, we can revive these acrylic markers, but it's definitely not a perfect fix, maybe temporary at best. If you would like to learn a little bit more about acrylic markers, have a good comparison of various brands, or just to know where to get started if you decide to invest in some acrylic markers yourself, you may enjoy these 2 videos here. And I will see you guys again next Friday with a brand new video. Take care and goodbye.